Oh, right there she is. Elliot. Right there. Right, that's Christia.
Christia. Yes. What the are you doing in Alberta? You traitorous bitch. Get the out of this province.
You don't belong here.
You're a traitor, you bitch.
Yeah, go ahead and hide.
All right, guys, you got a traitor in the elevator. Christia Freeland, I'm going.
Welcome to Liberty Talk Canada. Please let me know that you can hear me, you guys. We're always setting up things differently here. So this is a really important episode for all Canadians and Americans because it's happening to you as well. It's happening globally. But really, really important episode for people to understand what happened in Alberta, what just happened, and the real reason Christia Freeland was there. So I'm not just going to show a couple videos, that you guys may have seen or one certain one. I'm going to show an overall viewpoint. It's not a viewpoint, it's a fact. I'm going to show what is linking to what with what has transpired in the last 2 weeks, but starting years and years and years and years ago. Also, I've been working extremely hard. I'm doing 2 episodes today, 2 episodes tomorrow, putting the truth out everywhere, Twitter, Facebook, Liberty, BitChute, Rumble, getting lots of hate. This is my job. This is why I'm here on planet Earth. If you feel that my show really helps for you to get a perspective that the CBC will never tell you, please consider donating $5. Buy me a coffee. It's in the description. This is what I do for a living. Okay, where to start? The hardest part of this episode was figuring out, where do I start and how am I going to do this? So I'm going to keep things in the order of how this can all play out and make sense for the average viewer that has no idea why everyone's so angry. And also there's a big reason why the news is going extra crazy on this one fellow that told Christia Freeland off outside the elevator, non-violent, used some curses. Well, yeah, Trudeau gets sworn at every place he goes. All they care about is that someone got mad at her. He didn't threaten her, nothing like that. It's because they don't want anybody to know why he's so mad. What did that guy know that would make him that hostile and nonviolent? Well, I think a lot more people would show up at the elevator saying the same thing. Our politicians are continually doing things to destroy Canada. And then one person says something to her in an elevator. Oh, sexist, misogynist. Our politicians are in so much danger. Well, no, they're not. They're not. Trudeau gets the F-bomb thrown at him every location he's gone to in the last year. They don't show every single one of those. So how about CBC, CTV, Global News, do your job and find out why he's so angry. What is the story behind it instead of blocking it? So I'm going to start with a video that Ron Vaillant did many years ago, prior to COVID, as to what the government has planned for Canada, implemented by the ideas of the World Economic Forum, backed by the United Nations. So let me show this one. I'm going to show you parts of it.
Another big issue is the whole thing with caribou recovery. Have you heard of it?
Of course.
Okay, caribou recovery. I mean, so this is from the federal government, and there's an agreement, right? There's an agreement between the federal government, the BC government, West Moberly, and the Saulteaux Aboriginal bands in having over 1 million acres of land, and it could be 3 times that from what people have been telling me, in order to preserve a few thousand caribou, right? That's a huge, vast amount of all the.
So guys, this was shot many, many, many years ago. Ron Vaillant and I are buddies. He's come on my show to talk about UNDRIP. So many years. Now wait to see what Christia Freeland's reason is for going in and slaughtering the economy of Alberta.
Way down to McBride even, So the whole premise is that you have to protect the caribou habitat to protect the species, to regrow the species or whatever. And it actually, within that agreement, it says to bring it up to numbers for ancestral Aboriginal harvesting activities. So what does that have to do with preserving caribou? They threw that in there. They're not talking about the real issues that kill caribou. Like the guys in Mackenzie were saying, when the caribou cross back and forth over the lake, they've seen 60 drop dead because one will fall in, the ice will break and they'll fall in, and they're like sheep, they just keep on falling in. And the wolf population is going after the caribou. You got the hunters. I talked to a guy in Mackenzie, he says that we're not allowed to hunt grizzly bear, and the grizzly bears are going after the caribou. So, and really for the habitat, it makes no sense. If you're going to go ahead and drill a well, it's not going to kill a caribou. The caribou will just move away. And the caribou are only in certain small sections. They're not over a whole million acres. So it's just really a land grab is what it is. And it's very interesting that in that agreement, if I can just pull it up here real quick, it says something that's really bizarre, because I mean, what does this have to do actually with preserving caribou? And it actually goes into a far greater issue, and I'll just read it to you here real quick. Okay, whereas British Columbia and Canada are committed to fully adopting and implementing the United Nations Declarations on the Rights of Indigenous Peoples and the calls to action from the Truth and Reconciliation Commission of Canada. Okay, so in UNDRIP, I was given this. This is UNDRIP right here, and I'll tell you something that Article 26, and I'll be finished.
We'll try to keep this moving along.
Yeah, I will. Indigenous peoples have the rights to the lands, territories, and resources for which they have traditionally owned, occupied, or otherwise used. Okay? So it's very open-ended. And anyhow, I made a video on this. It's on my YouTube channel. I recommend everyone go and see it. Go and search Ron Vaillant, or you can go PPC and then a space and Ron V. It's absolutely critical that everyone watches this video, and watch Agenda 21 video.
Okay, so he's been warning everybody. Mark Friesen's been warning everybody. Do you see how uncomfortable the guy interviewing was? Like, oh, no, we can't get to the real truth. Come on, you're not propaganda. He was so uncomfortable. Okay, so, it's bad journalism that's created people like me, so they can just thank themselves. Now, I am going to show you a clip, or a couple clips.
The expansion of the caribou zone basically covers everything from underneath Grand Prairie all the way down past Grand Cache to the border.
So Chrystia Freeland just went in and signed. Nobody knew why she was there in Alberta. She just signed. They're going to make a reserve for caribou so big. And these guys from Alberta are explaining to Jeff Evely and Tom Quiggin what just happened.
And inside that, they're right now what we're doing to try and alleviate or come up with a proposed protection plan for the Alberta regulator in this scenario to present to the federal government so they can okay it, and we can continue activity if they do okay it by December 2022. If they don't okay it, which I can't really see, we all kind of know which way the wind blows with the federal government. Mm-hmm. They do have the ability to throw down a protection order and make it so there can be no expansion of any industry inside that zone. So you can't build new roads, you can't build new leases, you can't do anything. So you're basically end up at the whim of the federal government. And this, you're right, it goes towards all coal, mining, forestry, every industry that is in that zone has to try and fight for the right to even use it. And that's, I mean, they say there's 100 to 130 caribou maybe left in that zone, but they don't actually know. This is just hearsay by trackers they do have on some of them and sign. That's it.
So don't forget, in the beginning of the episode, I showed you Ron Vaillant many, many, many years ago warning they're going to use caribou as an excuse. Meanwhile, how many cattle and how many animals have been torched to death all over the world in the name of climate? So wait until you see that, or actually, you know what? Ron already said it in the beginning. It's not the fault of what is going on with industry that there's not that many caribou. It's an excuse. He was talking about how they keep falling into the ice, the bears, there's all sorts of nature reasons.
Trudeau and many other people, including Christy Freeland, who incidentally is on the board of advisors of the World Economic Forum, believe that carbon-based energy needs to be stopped. They believe that only the elites and the rich and powerful should have access to it, and everybody else should essentially be eating bugs and driving bicycles. A little overstatement there, but you get the point. But I think this is where this is going. This is the ideology of the globalists being imposed on Canada's oil industry. And of course, Canada's oil industry is, mostly located in Alberta, a bit in Saskatchewan, a bit in Newfoundland. But, seriously, it's Alberta at the end of the day. So maybe, Jeff, we've got Dustin here. Dustin, maybe you want to jump in at this point and give us kind of a more granular sense of what do you think this is going to do to individual people, individual communities, individual towns, because it strikes me that if the oil industry goes under, or even if it declines, it drags a whole lot of other stuff down with it. Dustin?
Hey, Tom, thanks for bringing me on, and thanks, Jeff, as well. Yeah, you're completely right. If they succeed in this endeavor, all of the communities that are going to be trapped inside that zone are just going to become ghost towns. You won't be able to sell because there's going to be no property value. There'll be no jobs to pay off debts. So you're going to be forced to either declare bankruptcy or even move into the towns paying off a debt that you no longer have anything to show for. As well, all of the subsidiary and supporting corporations and whatnot that are supporting oil and gas and all these different industries are going to completely lose all of their income in these zones. So if you really wanted to damage an economy, I couldn't think of a better way to do it. And to a point where it might not even recover.
So Dustin, from the point of view of people on the ground, folks who work for a living, people who travel up and down the roads, people who are either working in the oil patch or support the oil patch indirectly through their employment, what kind of message are you getting from people about Alberta separation, about anger, about potential violence when we have the federal government coming into Alberta again, looking like, for purposes of a foreign ideology, they want to kneecap Alberta's, the oil industry? And let's not even get into the fertilizer thing and the cattle industry, but let's focus on the oil thing. Do you see this as creating more anger, more pressure for Alberta to go its own way? And do you think this will affect the upcoming leadership of the Conservative Party as well?
Well, Tom, the federal government, especially in the last few years, it seems to want to constantly alienate the West more and more, even though the dependency on the West's income from its GDP and oil and gas is a linchpin for a lot of provinces. And the general disdain for the West is creating such a divide where I don't really see a scenario where there isn't an escalation. Wills, really. The general population has been more than done with Ottawa, the federal government, the Liberals' ideology, and whatever else is coming down the line. So you just keep poking everybody, and it makes you really wonder if maybe that's the intended purpose, is they want people to react and potentially overreact to fall into a narrative of maybe like a violent West or something like that. Separation, definitely on the table. It's always been there. The question is just the practicality and how to do it. And they're not giving Western Alberta or Western Canada in general a real reason to stay.